Hello again, everybody, and welcome to You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterling, our weekly look at the Miami Hurricanes from the betting perspective. I'm Gary Furman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined by Lee Sterling himself of ParamountSports.com, and you will see his information going across the bottom of your screen. Throughout this entire show, I can personally vouch that when you consult with Lee Sterling before you make your sports wagers on the weekend, you usually come out in a pretty good place. But Lee, you got your work cut out for you here because Miami reeling a little bit after what happened against Georgia Tech. Everybody knows what that is. No reason for us to rehash it here on this show. Obviously, the colossal mistake that was made is pretty crystal clear. The critical thing, and where it makes your life a little difficult, is what is the fallout going into the next week. Football teams, they have that cliche 24-hour rule. I do not personally believe that you can forget about something like that in 24 hours. I don't know if you could overcome something like that in 24 days or even 24 weeks. Yet this football team must go to Chapel Hill. Very tough spot this Saturday. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in your mind as you look at that game.
So I personally, in my career, never experienced anything like that. And I don't know if anyone, I talked to a lot of people. No one said they ever had something like that happen. So it is something that is unique. Now, the only thing that I can say ever experienced in high school or college was a season-ending game where you should have won and you lost. But that's different. The season's over. Never had a game, even like a Hail Mary that we lost on or anything like that. So I don't know exactly what the kids are going through. Obviously, they're very upset. But I will say this. These are young kids, and they are more resilient usually than you give them credit for. I don't think that North Carolina is that good. I got to be just upfront and honest with you. Like, for instance, last night I played Coastal Carolina against Appalachian State. I wasn't impressed with either of those teams coming in, but really? Appalachian State's going to lay 5.5 points with a nothing quarterback? Appalachian State put up 34 points on North Carolina's defense. Little Appy. And this is not a real talented Appalachian State team like the last couple of years. They put up almost 500 total yards. North Carolina has not faced any real decent quarterback at all the entire year. They, in fact, on offense have faced some, average, and I'm being quite kind, average defenses here. By far, this will be the best defense that North Carolina faced. It's not even close. I mean, they're playing teams like Pittsburgh, which, historically are pretty good, are way, way down this year. So I just think that Miami's going to come to play. They're going to take their aggressions out on someone. And I have a feeling it's going to be this week here. So I think they'll be focused. I think they will execute. I think that we are way more talented than North Carolina. If we had won the game, and let's just say Miami wins by 2-3 touchdowns, I think the line's North Carolina won, maybe even a pick 'em, believe it or not. So you're getting extra value here. Miami committed 5 turnovers in the rain. Georgia Tech, when we look back, we'll probably say they played their best game of the year in that game. And 5 turnovers, and you still should have won here. So the game plan wasn't great. I just think that if these kids come out and we score first, which I think there is a decent chance, if we get the ball, here's something that I've seen done by a few teams this year. When they faced adversity and they win the coin toss, they accept the ball. So the Chicago Bears did it last Thursday night. Great strategy. If you win the coin toss, accept the coin toss, accept the ball, and go down and drive the ball down and score. So, I mean, Tyler Van Dyke's not going to throw 3 interceptions like that again. Just not going to happen. So I think Miami's running backs will run wild on these guys here, and I'm going to take the 3.5. Miami wins outright 35-30.
All right, so let me just throw up, and it's an interesting pick you're making there. Miami's defense it did not look very good down the stretch the other night. It kind of got lost in the trash, of everything else that happened. But this is a Drake May who people universally say is the best quarterback in the country, or one of the best quarterbacks in the country, going to be a first-round pick probably this year. And who people can't stop raving about. Now, he's facing a Miami secondary that just had that experience the other night, giving up to 75 yards in 3 plays at the end of the game. How do you process all that?
Having played, Gary, I can tell you this. You sometimes go into a game where you're just going through the week like it's a normal week. There's no extra emotion at all. Watching films at Georgia Tech, they couldn't have been excited to play the game. Yeah, they want to get out there and play a game. Every kid in college wants to play, but there was nothing extra on the line. There was no rivalry at all. Georgia Tech had looked horrible. I mean, Haynes King was athletic. I mean, it's not like they ran all over us here. They had a couple breakdowns, but other than that, Miami was by far the better team. So I expect defense is all about playing hard and fast and smart too. We didn't play smart at the end of the game, obviously, those 2 last plays. But sometimes flukes happen, Gary. I've been there before. I've been in games, and if you talk to people who played, I've been in games where I was up by 2 touchdowns in a game, and we probably, just got a little high on the hog, sitting on the bench, feeling good about ourselves. Hey, we'll keep scoring against this team. The tide turns, you turn the ball over, and before you know it, you lose the game. It happens. It's just human nature. Things like that happen. So Miami's going to be up. These kids, I think, are going to be up. Now, I could be totally wrong, but having watched a lot of games, this is a totally unique situation. Maybe the closest situation is a team loses on a Hail Mary.
Had Miami beaten Georgia Tech, soundly, or however you want to consider it, does that change your feeling about this game?
I think it might have been tougher. I think Miami might have felt, hey, we're ready to play. I mean, look at the game before Temple. They totally dominated. They could have beaten that team if the weather was good by 50, 55, 60 points. So sometimes adversity, I'll never forget this. And I'm bringing back some things in my high school and college days because that's what I can draw on. And I also watch a lot of games. I'll never forget this. I was playing at Palmer. We lost to Ransom, 14-7. We were the better team. We had penalties, had a couple touchdowns called back. After that loss, we were a completely different team. We never had a game that was even close until we got in the state playoffs. So I have a feeling if we come out strong, maybe you don't want to bet the game right away or bet it before the game. Watch the first series or two. If you see Miami's playing hard and playing like a bunch of crazed dogs, then you bet them. In-game betting live is always fun to do. I wouldn't be shocked if Miami runs the table and wins the next 2 games and goes on a roll and goes in, except for that Georgia Tech game, undefeated when they play Florida State. So I've seen it happen too many times in high school and college.
So adversity definitely impacts the handicapping process.
Sometimes,
because it changes the mindset of the team going to the next game. Because let's not forget, this is a Miami team that started out the year with a 7.5 over under.
Right.
Now,
Gary, let's look at who the one game that was a good team that they beat. Texas A&M. Texas A&M throttled Arkansas. I mean, dominated Auburn. I mean, 2 middle of the road, pretty good SEC teams. The scores don't indicate how much they dominated. No, those 2 teams couldn't even run on them. I mean, nothing. Stopped cold. And probably you can make a point that they were probably the better team against Alabama last week. There was like 8 or 9 plays in that game that every single play went against them. They just couldn't pick up a first down when they needed to. Missed a tackle here. I thought they were a little bit, not by a lot, I thought they were the better team. The kid Burton for Alabama, he had like 9 catches for almost 200 yards, playing out of his mind. But they lost the game. I think the Miami win over Texas A&M kind of shows you how good this team can be. So we'll see what happens. Maybe, like I said, if you don't want to bet the game before the game starts, like I am, I'll also probably play it live.
So you would say 5 games into the season, Miami has shown up better than their preseason over/under.
Absolutely, not even close.
All right, that's a good thing to keep in mind.
No
here
hesitation, Gary.
As they get ready to go into this gauntlet here with North Carolina and then Clemson. It'll be very interesting. All right,
and we didn't even talk about, Gary, Louisville out of nowhere.
That's later. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a challenge for you in November.
Right.
We'll see how Louisville's playing at that point of the season. But it's funny. I was telling somebody on our message boards at CaneSport.com was like making this comment about how like the SEC is so superior. Miami should be looking to go into the SEC. I'm thinking to myself, like, are you paying attention, man? Like, Miami beat Texas A&M. Louisville just freaking crushed Notre Dame. FSU beat LSU handedly. The ACC is stepping up as a real competitive conference this season.
The ACC has really stepped up, and also like the Pac-12. I mean, they got 3 teams in the top 10. They could end up with
they're going out of business.
And they're going out of business. Craziest thing ever happened. I think in hindsight, they say, well, hey, maybe we'll stay in business and we'll let a few of the teams in the Big Ten come our way. But that's how it works out. I mean, even like the Big 12, Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. Texas beats Alabama. Oklahoma beats Texas.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like it's college football is really having a great year this year. And that's why a lot of people are watching. There's a lot of interest. All right. So Lee says you take Miami plus the 3.5 this weekend. Lead Notre Dame, USC, one of the bigger games of the weekend. It's in South Bend. The Irish, who have been struggling, which might fall right into your philosophy there, that this could be a rally the troops kind of game for the Fighting Irish. We'll see what you say in a minute. They are minus 2.5 at home against USC. What happens in that game?
Here's something interesting and studying. I'm usually not totally surprised, but I am by this. Everyone knows USC's offense is great. Did you know that USC's defense, they are number 8 in the country in sacks?
Wow.
So they give up points, but they do get pressure on the quarterback. And all of a sudden, Notre Dame, Sam Hartman, he was sacked 5 times last week. Last 2 games, he's completed just 48 and 57% of his passes, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, nothing special. I think Notre Dame is played out. Everyone also talks about, Notre Dame at home, how great they are. Good as an underdog, but 0-5, the last 5 games as a home favorite here. I think USC just has so much offense, and I think they'll play aggressive on defense, get a couple takeaways. I like USC here, 37-30.
Imagine that. The Notre Dame season falling apart already. Panic at NBC. All right. FSU is playing at home this week. Minus 17.5 over Syracuse, a team that struggled last week. Leo, the FSU Lions getting overinflated, or is this one about right?
So I played FSU with my clients last week and lost. That was one of my few losses. They were laying 23.5, 24 points. They're up 22-0 right out of the gate. First 3 possessions, relaxed, and sometimes you lose a game that way. But I will say this, and we don't know the status of Wilson, their best receiver. Syracuse cannot run the football. If you want to be able to keep the offense off the field of Florida State, you got to run. They've gone in the last 3 games from running for 158 to running for 100, then 92 yards. So they have a mobile quarterback. They're not running. They lost Gadsden, their best tight end, before the year started. Their number 2 receiver is out right now. I just don't think that – I don't think Florida State's going to let up like last week. Sometimes, like I said, you learn a lesson, and I think Norville's going to talk to his players about that, and that's important. You see really good teams, they don't let up and they finish, and that was not a good performance from Florida State the final 3 quarters. So I like Florida State here. I think they win this game. I think they double up Syracuse 42-21.
What was the final margin of victory for them last week?
I think it was 22, 30, 20,
And you
something like that. I think it was 39-17, 22 points. They didn't cover.
and you were laying 23.
Yeah. So
Wow. Just as a
yeah,
final
and
point.
how about this? How about this, Gary? I lost 3 games last week. 3. I lost 3. I went a perfect 4-0-1 on Sunday, but the other game that I lost was Missouri. Did you watch any of that game? The end of that game?
No.
So they were leading almost the entire game against LSU. LSU scores with less than a couple minutes to go in the game. Missouri gets the ball back on their 6-yard line, goes to pick 6. Final,
Wow.
LSU 49-39, getting 5.5 points, never trailed until the final 30 seconds there. So,
I've always wondered about those games that have like the big point spreads, like you said, the 23 point spread. They won by 22.
Right.
I've always been personally, I'm not obviously engaged like you are, but when I play around before the Havernick family at the old Flagler dog track shut down the Hard Rock Sportsbook. If anybody knows them, by the way, please tell them to stop the appeals so that all of us out here can have a good time. Please. Right. There's only so many football seasons in our lives. But anyway, they've been a long time University of Miami football supporter. So I'm assuming some people watching the show know them. Like, just stop already. Stop the appeals. But Lee, the big spreads, have always bothered me because I find that lots of times like that, you can get caught, even though you're right. Picking Florida State big, you end up losing by 1 point.
It wasn't like it was a 30-point spread. 30-point spreads are, those are tough. That's when you're putting in the backups. Usually the 20-point spreads, they got their starters in. They just relax. Under 25 points, I usually consider it a relatively competitive game. And anything can happen, but 30-point spreads is where I rarely play those games. So, hey, there's a lot of situations. Like, I think there's a message that Florida State's going to have this week in Norville Well to his players. So, laying 17.5 doesn't bother me. If college points are cheap, you see a lot of teams score 40, 50 points. Don't see it as often in the NFL. So I'm not bothered by laying 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 touchdowns, especially in college.
Wow. All right. Well, there's your betting tips of the week from Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports. You see the number at the bottom of the screen, 1-800-400-9741. Lee, you got any specials going on this week?
I do. In fact, it looks like if everything holds, I'm studying some tapes. I want to watch 1 or 2 more games. The last couple games, I want to go over them again of both teams. We might have our first, I rate my games from 10 to 50 units. We've had a 45-unit NFL game so far this year, which we've won, and we're 5-0 on our 35-unit plays or higher. Looks like we'll have our first college 40 to 50-unit play. So if everything holds, we'll have that, and hopefully knock it down for everyone. I'll text you the game. It's not ready to be played yet. We're still waiting. You got to check on the injuries, but Saturday game, small favorite. I think it might be a blowout.
You got one you feel pretty good about.
Oh, I do. I like the matchup. I like the line. I like, got to check the weather, got to check the injuries, and there's, a guy could get suspended the last day, but I'll text you the game. And anyone wants to get on board, we call it not October, still October, 3 weeks, $247 with coupon code SAVE100. We are 47-21-2 this year. That is a documented 47. Let me say that again. 47-21-2. That is over 69% for almost 2.5 months. So been, if not the greatest, my top 2 greatest years we've ever had at Paramount Sports. Love to have everyone along for the ride. We also do hockey. Never had a losing season hockey. That started yesterday. And then also got UFC going on every week. Basketball starts in a week and a half. Check out the website, ParamountSports.com.
There's so much going on. Come on, get to the Havernicks. Tell them free the Hard Rock Casino, please, and let us have our sports book. All right, Lee, so I assume you don't want to tell us what that game is. You definitely don't want to give us the pick yet, but can you tell us what the game is or not yet? Not yet.
No, can't even tell you the game. So as soon as the game starts, Gary,
Right.
you can tweet it out. I tell all the radio guys, podcast guys, as soon as it kicks off, you by all means put it out on X, Twitter, Instagram. I will also tweet it out.
Give it to everybody.
And if everyone wins, everyone is really happy and in a good mood, buying dinner and who knows, maybe going and gambling, going on a trip to Vegas or somewhere.
Damn. And I'm going to be in North Carolina this weekend where they don't have sports betting.
Actually, they have sports
gambling.
Right, Gary, they actually have sports gambling in the western part. I think it's the couple of the Indian reservations. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to be in Chapel Hill, so that won't help me.
You're too far.
Yeah, they haven't put it. Yeah. All right, Lee. Thank you so much for Lee Sterling. I'm Gary Furman. Thank you for joining us once again on You Bet CaneSport with Lee Sterling. We'll see you next time, everybody.